Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I'm joined by the beautiful Samantha Hale. Samantha, how you doing today?
Well, hello. I shall always be required. It's always a requirement to say beautiful before my name. So thank you.
And and she's actually funny, guys. Um,
We were just sharing a story about how I was introduced that way at a show, and this poor guy, bless his heart, he thought he was being nice, but he's like, no, 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 I know, like, she looks good, but she's actually funny. Dude, we're allowed to be both. But thanks so much.
right, yeah, it's just funny how the things that some people can think are a compliment at times.
Yeah, I think he genuinely was trying to be nice. He just maybe he thought back like, oh, that came out weird.
Yeah, yeah. But Sam, before we talk about why you're here, I would like for the people that don't know you to get to know you a little bit. You just recorded your comedy special, Samantha Hale Horror Nerd. It is streaming everywhere now. So you guys can catch it on Apple, Amazon, and you don't have to go far because all of those links are down in the description. So, what got you started into doing stand-up comedy?
You know what? I'm not one of those people that grew up thinking, I'm going to be a comic. It's all I'm going to do. I thought I was going to be an actor, actually. I come from a family of actors, so I thought that's what I have to do. And I was working so hard, and so much of the acting industry is out of your control. You're too tall, you're too this, and it's super competitive. And I just was feeling a little frustrated. And one day, a friend of mine said, hey, do you want to see the Women of Chelsea Lately tonight at the Laugh Factory? I said, sure, sounds fun. And it was Jen Kirkman, Sarah Colonna, Natasha Leggero, like these really cool women. And I was just so enamored with how confident they were. I felt so empowered just watching them. And Natasha Leggero was like, wow, I used to do this show called Pretty Funny Women. Now it's a class. Why don't you take this class? And I did, thinking I would do it once. And that was like 15 years ago.
That's amazing. And like I said,
Yeah.
you're talking about some pretty big names there. And what I love is how you can blend horror and comedy together. Is that something that you've always been attracted to, or is it something that kind of later on you found your niche in that?
Yeah, it was more like I mean I grew up with horror. I've always loved it, so naturally I did already have some bits about it. But it did everything changed actually in the pandemic, believe it or not, because I'm based out of Los Angeles. Everything was shut down. I couldn't work for almost 2 years. So I had to find ways of keeping myself entertained and inspired and creative. And so I mean, I'm in LA. I have access to the best horror filming locations around. I have the Michael Myers house, the Nightmare on Elm Street house, the Insidious house, American Horror Story Murder House. Like, so People Under the Stairs, for crying out loud. I love that movie. Yeah, right. So I would make funny videos in front of the actual houses about the killer, about the final girl, about my relationship to that film, and people really loved it. And so I just started
Mhm.
writing more and more material, and people kept asking me, "What are you doing next?" And they were really excited. And so when the world opened back up again, my dear friend Sarah Taylor was like, "Hey, why don't you make a show out of this and pitch it to the Hollywood Improv?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know if they'll go for it." But they did, and I'm so grateful they gave me a shot. I thought it would be like a Halloween time thing, but we've been doing it every month for 4 years now.
That's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And like I said, I do have all of her social media links down in the description as well, and the links to all her shows, guys. So make sure that you are checking her out. But this isn't just a fly-by-night thing. You know, show business, horror has been in her blood her whole life. She used to live across the street from the Poltergeist house. Her grandfather was Skipper on Gilligan's Island, and her great-grandfather was, acquaintances with Bela Lugosi. So, this is something that your whole life, entertainment, horror. I mean, I'm not counting Gilligan's Island as horror, but that is the entertainment side of things.
I don't know.
Um,
Gilligan did some scary things.
yeah, he was kind of a doof, but
A little bit, a little bit.
growing up around all that, do you think that kind of inspired you to kind of always reach for the stars in the acting type of thing that you were looking for, or is it just kind of
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I have this weird, like, comfort zone, nostalgic connection to old Hollywood for sure. I mean, when I think of my great grandfather, Alan Hale Sr., met my great grandmother on the set of a silent picture all those years ago, which is so we go like way back. And he was Errol Flynn's sidekick. And that we yeah it just feels like home when I watch Robin Hood, or when I watch, and speaking of horror though, Don Wells was in I'm so sorry, I forgot to turn my phone off, and I'm getting a phone call from Wisconsin, so it might be Ed Gein. I don't know. It could be. That was
it,
one of
very,
the first bits that I wrote was about Ed Gein, because I was just watching a documentary and I'm like, wait, what? Like he was the inspiration for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Psycho, and Silence of the Lambs. What? And I remember watching it, and the thing that stuck out the most was like he asked the cops for cheddar cheese on his apple pie, and that's what he wanted. That's weird. Like everything else, like I don't know
Right.
why that jumped out at me as being so weird. Um,
Everything else I totally get, but man, cheese on
but
an apple pie?
cheese?
Like
I mean,
this
what's
guy
wrong?
was a psychopath.
I know. It's weird how comic brains work. Like we look for things that jump out. We look for a surprise. We look for a twist that an audience won't see coming. And that
Right.
caught me off guard. So I'm like, well, that's going to be a joke. But what I was going to say about Dawn Wells is she was in The Town That Dreaded Sundown.
Mm-hmm.
And Dawn came to the very first show I ever did ever. And she sat right in the front row and she's like, Samantha, don't tell anyone I'm here. I'm like, Dawn, they see you. Like you're
Right.
here.
Just because it's a comedy show, these still work.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But no, I mean Hollywood and I mean I grew up going to Hollywood Boulevard and Melrose and the Hollywood Bowl and my great aunt Karen, who is the skipper's sister, who was amazing and incredible. She worked on one of my all-time, well, she worked on a lot of amazing movies, but one of my all-time favorites is The Witches of Eastwick. And
Ooh,
yeah, and so that's pretty cool. I'm like, wait, I'm sorry, Karen, you worked with Jack Nicholson, Michelle Pfeiffer, Susan Sarandon, and Cher at the same time? What?
that's amazing.
Pretty amazing, right? And when she passed away, I have this really amazing memory of spending the day at her like celebration of life party with Veronica Cartwright, who she was very good friends with, who of course was an alien and
Sure.
so many things. So yeah,
Veronica Cartwright is such an angel too.
yeah.
Like she was just in a movie we watched this year, a new movie called The Ruse, and she hands down was the part that stuck out the most to us. It was like she still got it. Like
Always.
she's still incredible.
Totally. PJ Souls, totally. I say that all the time.
Yeah.
I'm a Halloween kind of girl.
Well, it's amazing because, like, you talked about how your family, you grew up with in that type of show business. I was blessed enough to grow up inside of a video store. My mom and dad owned a mom and pop video store, and
No way.
yeah, so I kind of talk about it. I'm a bit older than you, but when we were young, YouTube was walking up and down the horror section, looking at the cover art, trying to figure out which one looked the scariest or which one jumped out at us the most. And so, like, to hear you talk about this, like, it kind of takes me to myself. This is what I did, and I think that's why I love to do what I do now, learning how horror started for people. I think that's why this is so special to me because it takes me back to those days of walking through the video store, trying to find the scariest movie to watch tonight.
Yeah, definitely. And I am currently on an insane VHS binge where I'm just like finding all the old horror VHS that I can get my little hands on. And it's
Mhm.
cool now. Everyone wants it now. I'm like, oh, why are they so hard to find?
Right.
But I know where all the little hole in the wall video stores are in throughout Los Angeles. And I go to all the flea markets. I just scored Amityville 2, The Possession
The
yesterday.
Possession.
Uh-huh. And
Nice.
Blair Witch. I'm like, how did I get these? What?
Right.
The Howling? I mean, I got some good stuff yesterday. My boyfriend's like, please stop. We're out of furniture to put these on. Please stop. But I
Well,
can't.
what I love about VHS, because even today, like when Ashley and I will watch Alien, we always watch the VHS. Like, I don't want to
Yeah.
see a 4K restoration of this. I want it to be dark and grainy. Like, that
Yeah.
enhances how I feel about the film. And I try to tell people that, like, especially if I'm watching a horror film that's supposed to be a dark horror film, I don't want to see a 4K restoration where I can see everything so clearly. That takes
Exactly.
away a lot of the suspense and a lot of the mystery of the film.
Exactly. I we were watching we watched Halloween last night actually, and it was just so cool to it just made it put you in the 70s and it was really cool to see it like on a like we have a bigger TV in the living room with like a good sound in there. So it was like
Yeah.
this kind of nostalgic 90s picture with really good sound and that was
Hmm.
like oh, I was like let's get the popcorn. This is the most fun thing ever.
Yep. Babe, I need you to go up there and push the channel button a couple times to adjust the tracking.
Oh,
Uh,
totally. And the VHS that we got, I got it from a Goodwill, and so it's set, I think, in French, and we don't have the remote, so I'm like, well, we're rewinding and fast forwarding in French. Cool.
well, at least I know how to say rewind and fast forward in French now. So,
Yeah, I
um,
know that much.
well, talking about all these horror movies and what horror means to you, horror had to start for you somewhere, Sam.
Yep.
So now I would like to go back to the past and talk about what got you started in the horror genre, your first horror movie. And Sam, the first horror movie you watched was?
It. Definitely it. Definitely. I'm wearing the new kind of the it clown right now. I'm wearing my
Yep.
Terrifier shirt, but Pennywise started it for me. for
Hmm.
sure. It was my dad was the one that got me into this. We watched all of the films. I mean, I would say because it's not horror, it's more comedy, but even before it kind of ruined my childhood because I had night terrors for like 6 years legit. I
Yeah,
fell in love with Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. Because I grew up with, yeah, the Universal monsters. I mean, I grew up going to Universal Studios. You know, I did the backlot tour, Jaws, King Kong. I mean, I remember when it was still really, really amazing, and it wasn't quite as, CGI as it is now.
sure,
That was like life changing, and thank goodness they still have the shark. Thank goodness they still have Jaws in there.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, but it was the first one. I My parents had just gotten a divorce, and that's when so my mom moved me to Simi Valley, and that's when she moved me just like right up the block from the Poltergeist house. And I really didn't
Mhm.
realize it at first because that was actually the other movie that my dad raised me on. It was it and Poltergeist, and those were our two big movies. Um, but I was not prepared for it. Oh, I was
No,
not prepared. I mean, I was not okay for years, but I
yeah,
kept going back like a psycho. I kept trying to conquer the fear and conquer the fear. And I mean, I would have this like passionate love story with this film of like, I hate you. And then but I'm still scared. And probably the worst nightmare I've ever had. I remember it legit, like so crystal clear. He was chasing me through a Target. Like, why is Pennywise? Like, he was chasing me through like the socks in Target. Why? I don't know, but I remember that dream
yeah.
very clearly because it shook me. I was shook by that movie.
See, and this movie I think is still very influential. I do want to touch on something real quick before I really dive into it. Um, One of my favorite scenes from any movie ever in the history of cinema is in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein when
Oh,
they push the bed against the door to think
yeah.
they're blocking the door, and
They
then
opened
Frankenstein just pulls it open.
it.
That's one of my favorite scenes in cinema history. It's
It's
so
so
funny.
funny.
Yes, and the timing is so perfect. So when you brought that up, I was like, I gotta talk about that scene because it's one of those scenes that is so simple, but
Yeah,
yet so brilliant.
right.
And only Abbott and Costello could pull it off the way that they did. You know how they're all leaned against the door with the bed, and then
Yeah,
Frank just pulls it open.
yeah.
And oh,
Just
it's
like
just
what? It's
yeah,
just
it's
it's
amazing scene. But
yeah.
um,
There's actually this really cool silent film theater called Old Town Music Hall in El Segundo, like just by LAX, and they do really wonderful screenings of classic films. I got in touch with them when they screened Robin Hood, actually, and I got
yeah,
to introduce the film because my great grandfather was Little John, which is pretty cool. Apparently, he played Little John like 4 times, 5 times in different movies. He was very connected to that role. But when I saw, so I wound up having the pleasure of introducing a screening of Halloween and Dracula this October. Um,
nice.
but when I found out that they were doing Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein and that Chris Costello and her family was going to be there, I'm like, well, I'm going to that one for sure. And I got to meet Chris Costello, and that was just, she was lovely and so nice. And I literally had my VHS tape with me. I was like, I love this movie
That's
so much.
incredible.
Because not only is the movie itself just iconic, and everyone still laughed at all the jokes. We've all seen this movie 1,000 times. We still laughed. But I have a really, really wonderful memory with my dad, specifically with this film, because it was kind of like our big weekend treat. Was he would take me. There was a little video store right up the road, pre-Blockbuster, and he would take me to this little mom and pop shop. We would rent Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, and then we would go to 7-Eleven and get grandma's chocolate cookies, and that was our big like Friday night celebration. And we did it like every weekend.
See, and it's funny because I've said this before too. Like kids today will never know the heartbreak of walking up to that video and taking it
Yeah.
off and seeing that there's not a tape behind it. But
Yeah.
they'll never know the joy of asking them, like, hey, did somebody by chance return this in the Dropbox? And
Yes.
they pull it out of the Dropbox, and you're just like, yes,
Yes. And you're like, I'll
yes,
rewind it myself. I don't even care if it's not rewound
yes.
yet. I
Even
promise.
if they weren't kind and didn't rewind, I
I,
will still rewind it.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I did
so,
that. My mom took me to Blockbuster and Hollywood Video, and I used to buy all the used VHSs. I wish I still had all of those from when I was a kid.
oh God, I've got so many VHSs here. I'll have to go through and see if there's any that you might dig, but
There will be. There will
you
be.
Talking about it, probably one of the most famous VHSs, because I remember it was one of those double VHSs. You had
Mhm.
part one and part two on the double VHS. We know
Right.
you were very young watching it with your father for the first time. Do you remember which scene it was that affected you the most?
Anything with the drains got me. Like when he, kind of like came out of the drain in the shower scene when it's like it's all white tile and all you see is just this red, his hair start to pop up out of the drain and how he like puts his hand and just opens the hole. I mean, oh my God, that is probably the one that was, and then he would just kind of lean on the tile and look at, oh my God, terrifying. I would say
Talking to
that's
Eddie Spaghetti.
Eddie Spaghetti, yeah, the drain, and also the voices and the blood in in the bathroom sink with Beverly. That the drains really got me. Ooh, did not like that part at all.
Mhm. And I think that what people forget is the two things that really go together to me that blows my mind still to this day. This was a made for TV film in 1990. This never got a theatrical release. This wasn't a huge budget film. And in the first 15 to 20 minutes, you have two kids getting killed in the, you have the one little
Gloria.
girl, yeah, where she's, in the, hi, when he's in the
Yeah,
sheets. And then
yeah,
obviously Georgie right after that. And it's just like, this was made for TV. And in the first, not even first
yeah,
act, like the first quarter of an act, two kids are killed right away. And me as a young boy, obviously I identified with Georgie. And I'm sure you as a young lady identified with our first female victim as well.
yeah.
And it's just like that's a way to really get the children that are watching engaged as well. Because you're killing a young
Yeah.
boy and a young girl; those are our peers, so we're automatically synced. They got
Oh
us
yeah.
right away.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know, if you've seen Welcome to Derry? I mean, it's savage. That first episode, those kids in the movie theater, Stephen King does not worry about killing kids at all. He's like, well, equal opportunity. I mean,
Yep.
dang, he doesn't pull any punches. It's savage.
I'm
Um,
I'm loving Welcome to Derry, and I agree with you because I thought when we saw those kids, I was like, oh, this is our losers club, and then I was like, oh, well, that was not our losers club. Like now,
uh,
when you do that, you get this feeling nobody is safe.
yeah. Yeah, it's like the opening to Psycho or Scream. You get attached to the character and you're like, "Oh, this is great. Wait, what? What do you mean?
Yeah,
Huh? Like you just broke the rules."
right. You weren't supposed to do
You weren't
that.
supposed to do that. But I did. I actually wound up just writing a joke about that first scene in It when he's hiding in the sheets and he's tormenting the little girl. Because it made me think of like, well, Michael Myers did that to Laurie Strode. He was hiding in sheets and tormenting. So the joke that I got out of is we are teaching children not to do laundry.
Right.
Like my excuse as a kid was can't fold, clown will eat me. Can't do it.
You know what? Been married for 20 years. I'm now using this as a note for myself.
There you go.
Can't do laundry, babe. Sorry, clown will eat me.
Yeah,
Um,
sorry. Them's the rules. So sorry.
so we talk about how, especially in the world today and how scary the world is today, um, these scenes I think are a little more impactful now than ever. With the amount of children disappearances and stuff that we have like that now. We talked about, the drains being the scene that really affected you the most. But did you have a scene that was like a favorite scene? Because I like to go from the dark to the light. Did you have a scene that like really stuck with you for being like a favorite scene?
Ooh, that's such a question about that movie. I mean, you can't get better than the library scene, right? Where they're all just sitting there reading and no one can actually see the blood and it just gets all over everywhere. And the balloons, when he throws his head back, he's like, ha ha, ha ha, ha ha. That like burned into my brain. I was like, that's the most brilliant, terrifying thing I've ever seen. And then I think like on the way out, you hear him saying like, what was it? It was like, do you have Sir
Prince Albert in a
Prince
can.
Albert in a can? You better let him out. I'm like, oh my God, that joke has
He's
never been so
spinning the
scary.
noisemaker.
Yeah, and the noisemaker, that messed me up. Also, though, the visual of him standing in front of like the big, I don't, the entrance to his gutter home, like what I don't know what that building would be called,
Yeah.
but when he's tricking Ben into like he presents himself as Ben's dad, and then oh, that part really scared me too.
I think what I love about that part is it is not just like Ben's dad, Pennywise. Like it slowly, like first he gets the
Whoa.
buttons on him, and then he has
Yeah,
the balloons. Do you want to float,
yeah.
Ben? They all float, and
Oh,
then he's Pennywise. So it slowly goes from like it piece by piece, And I think it's a brilliant way to run that scene, doing it piece by piece like that. Because us as the viewer, obviously, the minute we see it, we know, oh, okay, it's Pennywise. But Ben obviously doesn't. So to have that piece by piece come, I think that was a brilliant way to write that scene.
Definitely. 100%.
We talked about a couple deaths here, and there are a fair share of deaths in the 1990 miniseries. So I always like to ask, which death was it that was your, I hate saying favorite because that's dark, but which death was it that sticks in your brain the most from it 1990?
Honestly, it was Pennywise. I mean, probably both. I mean, the spider, okay, listen, I don't think the spider did it for a lot of us. I think we were like, Tim Curry's a lot scarier than the spider. But in part one, when Beverly shoots the rock through his head and the light comes out of his head, that was so cool and so like terrifying but relieving. It's like, at the same time, like,
Yeah,
oh, okay, all right, she didn't miss, she got him, but
like
oh
they
my God.
actually have a chance here.
Yeah, yeah, and when his face starts to like shrivel and then he gets, ugh, yeah, the drains messed me up.
Oh yeah, we're right back to those drains.
Yeah.
So usually when I ask people about their first horror movie, I like to ask, would you like to see your first horror movie remade today? Obviously, we did get that treatment with 2017 and 2019.
Yeah.
Have you seen those versions? And if so, do you like those ones in comparison to 1990?
I think I'm like an unfair person to ask because I have such an attachment to the first one. But
Mhm.
I mean, I think Skarsgård is amazing. The kids were great. I thought the kids were had great chemistry, were super funny. That it was, I mean, perhaps it's closer. I think Pennywise is closer to the book version of how Stephen King wrote it. But
Sure.
I really liked the gritty human element that Tim Curry gave it. I thought some of the CGI types effects kind of took me out a little bit.
Hmm.
I wasn't afraid of this Pennywise, but also I'm an adult. So,
Right.
but still, when I go back as an adult and rewatch Tim Curry, I'm like, no, that's creepy AF. Like, uh-uh.
See, and I think that, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I promise that's not what I'm trying to do. But that's kind of the way I feel because when I look at Skarsgård's interpretation, and I'm a big fan of chapter one and chapter two as well for different reasons. Skarsgård, his Pennywise, if I was a kid, I'd look at him and be like, fuck that. That thing's scary as hell. I'm not going anywhere near that. But Curry's is more welcoming, which I think in turn makes it more scary because he
Uh-huh.
looks like the type of clown that would be a fun party clown. Where
Uh,
Skarsgård's, the minute you look at it, you're like, there's something fucked up about that thing. But
yeah,
Tim Curry's is that beautiful on the outside, monster on the inside.
right.
And I think that that's why, like the true, like John Wayne Gacy, like the inspiration, he was this beautiful clown that everybody loved and then he was this just demonic, disgusting monster on the inside. That's
Yeah.
the way I've always looked at Curry's interpretation, and that's why I think that one means more to me and is scarier to me because I would approach that clown if I was a kid.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's a great way of putting it.
So,
Absolutely. Yeah, you're like, oh, it's a guy. It's a guy in a clown suit. Okay.
right,
Clowns are
and
supposed to be good, right?
and then Skarsgård, you're just like, no,
Nope, that's an
fuck that.
alien. Nope.
So,
That's an ancient entity. Nope.
so I do love talking about it and how that got you started in the horror genre. But here for a second, I do want to throw a little bit of a curveball at you.
Yeah.
My little buddy Ghostface is here, and he has a question for you. What's your favorite scary movie, Sam? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
I feel like I'm obligated to say Scream, but Ghosty, love you, buddy. You were the first scary movie I saw in a theater. I made my dad take me 5 times. It's
Yeah,
amazing. Hell yeah. But I'm a Halloween kind of girl. I'm an original Michael Myers OG Halloween.
it's hard to root against it. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that that movie perfected what a slasher should be.
Yeah.
You know just as much about your final girl as you do your villain. It's the perfect storm wrapped up in a film. And even if you don't like Halloween, I don't think you can deny that's the prototypical slasher film.
Hmm.
Without that film, horror is not what it is today. And I hope my wife didn't hear any of that because she's a huge Halloween fan and I'm always putting it down because she loves it so much. Um,
Well, we'll
yeah,
get
it
along
is.
great. Tell her I say, hey, girl.
There we go. But it is. I mean, like if you want to look at the perfect way to make a slasher, do what Halloween did and just speed it up a little bit for me, please. But
And
um
and there's no blood in that movie, which I actually am okay with.
Hmm.
Um,
And I just think for me, I grew up watching Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Child's Play. Like those were the three big ones for me. And I came into Halloween a little bit later in the game.
yeah,
So when I got into Halloween a little bit later, it was just so slow to me because I'm used to, Jason shooting a harpoon or Freddy being in
yeah.
people's dreams or Chucky just coming up with the most creative ways. And then Michael's just like, uh. And I was like,
I'm gonna
is he
get
gonna
you
do
and
something
close it.
else? They're like, oh, wait till this next one. I'm like, oh, so
Yeah.
he hung him on a wall when he stabbed him. Cool. What about the next one? I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, cool. But as an adult now, I look back on all the big franchises from the 70s, 80s, and Halloween is probably the scariest because it's just a guy that was
Yeah.
next door, just the evil monster next door that put on a William Shatner face and started killing people just because. Like he had the darkest eyes, the devil's eyes. That's terrifying. There's
That,
nothing
yeah.
supernatural or anything like it's just your neighbor that's insane. Halloween is a terrifying movie as an adult with children.
Right, right. But then I think it's also like extra cool because now there's the debate. Well, like, wait, is he pure evil? Is he the shape?
Right.
Is he a man? Why is he not dying? I thought he was just like a dude. What is happening? I mean, Loomis's monologue is brilliant. It's so good, just
So good.
describing him. It's so good. But I actually had that experience with The Exorcist because
Okay.
I saw The Exorcist when I was maybe like 10 or so. My mom let me see it. And I remember she was like, okay, we got it from Blockbuster. She's like, okay, I'm going to go run some errands. Wait for me. Don't put it on until I get back. I said, okay. Put it on as soon as the door slammed.
The minute she
The
left.
minute. And I think because I'd already seen like a lot of horror films by the time I saw this, I was like, get to the good part. Like I was such a little booger and it wasn't scary
Right.
because I was already used to stuff and I was like, just get to it already. And when I went back later and rewatched it, I'm like, oh my God, this is brilliant. This slow build, the psychology
Hmm.
behind it, the actors, oh my God, it's incredible. I just didn't piece that all together when I was like, in your town, you're like, get to the good stuff.
Yeah. And I think that was me with Halloween,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
shoot somebody with a harpoon or, drag somebody up a wall and let them fall on a waterbed, something like
Right.
that. Um,
Right.
but it's funny you say that because The Exorcist will always have a stigma to me because that's the only movie ever my mom shut off when we were watching because she was watching it for the first time as well. And we
Oh.
got to the crucifix part and she was like, nope. And I didn't understand what
Oh.
was happening. I was like, she's stabbing
Right.
herself. My mom was like, sure, we'll leave it at that. Like, because yeah, I had no idea what the hell was going on. I was a
Yeah.
kid. I was like, oh, whatever, mom. And then I watched it as an adult. I was like, oh, okay,
Oh,
I
that's
get it.
awkward. Okay.
Now I understand.
Yeah.
Um,
I had that
so
experience with my dad, but it wasn't a horror film. It was actually a Sylvester Stallone movie called The Specialist. So I grew up also watching Arnold Schwarzenegger, Predator, Commando, Total Recall. I grew up on that too. And so when this movie came out, we're like, oh, this is going to be a blow 'em up, cool movie. It was him and Sharon Stone, and they were just naked going at it the whole time. And my dad was like, we're leaving. Nope.
yeah, this is
So
not
awkward.
happening.
It was so awkward.
See, and that is weird, especially when you're with your father, a dad
Yeah.
and a daughter. It's like,
Yeah. Like,
we're gonna
ugh,
head out.
feels
Yeah.
wrong. Yeah.
Yep, I totally understand that too. So, honestly, Sam, I've had an amazing time talking to you about how horror started for you and your favorite horror movie. But before I let you go, we always bounce back to the same question. We're going to go back to it, and what we're going to do is rank this on a skull count. Now,
Ooh.
we're not ranking it on acting, production, score, direction, nothing like that. We're not being critics. What we're doing is ranking this movie on how much it affected you on your first viewing. So, zero skulls being not effective, five being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. Sam, what would your ranking of it be?
Like 15. Oh my God. It like ruined I was so scared. My dad had like a white glove for some reason. I don't know why in the living room. I was so afraid that it was going to morph into it that I made him burn it. Like I made him put it in the fireplace and promise me that Pennywise wasn't going to get me. I
That's
was messed
insane.
up for years. Yeah.
I love that though, because like I said, especially with movies like this, it's really hard to explain. Because a kid watches this movie today and they're gonna be like,
Right.
really? It doesn't
Yeah.
even show anything,
I know.
but when we were kids, there was nothing scarier than what was happening in our imagination. And a lot of these movies was really tell, don't show, so we
Right.
had to put the pieces together in our mind. And I
Right.
think that growing up, that was some of the best horror movies I had ever seen. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I remember
Oh
that movie
yeah.
being so bloody and gory and disgusting.
Oh
And then I
yeah.
watched it as an adult and I was like, this is nothing. but my mind made it so much worse than it was. When we were
Exactly.
children, we put these pieces together that weren't there. So, I know I said this at the beginning, guys, but I have all of Sam's links down in the description. So please make sure you're giving her a follow. Make sure you're subscribing, following, watching the special. Those links are down in the description as well. This is just the beginning. You're going to want to be along for the ride on all the amazing things she has coming up for us. Sam, please don't go anywhere. I do have a couple more questions for you.
All
Uh,
right.
Everyone else, if you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe. It does help build the channel more than you know. And follow Sledgehammer Horror on social media. Those links are in the description as well. But until next time, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.